The sound of tires slowing on a narrow Boston side street felt louder than the sobs the young woman was trying to hide. Her knees pulled to her chest on the cold curb, as if she could fold herself small enough to disappear from the world that had just broken her. She hadn't planned to cry there, in public, in daylight, where strangers could see the red swelling around her eyes and the way her hands shook when she tried to wipe her face. Yet grief does not wait for privacy, and neither does despair. And on that gray morning it spilled out of her where the city could witness it. What if this were you, stranded between everything you lost and everything you still feared? Would you hope someone noticed, or pray no one did? The black sedan that rolled to a stop beside her belonged to a man who rarely noticed sidewalks anymore. Thomas Reynolds, a CEO whose name appeared in financial magazines and conference banners, had spent years measuring life in profits, deadlines, and the cold precision of quarterly reports. His days were scheduled down to the minute, his thoughts always one step ahead of everyone else. Yet something about the way the woman's shoulders collapsed inward, like a building surrendering to gravity, cut through his momentum. He saw not weakness but exhaustion, the kind that came from fighting too long without help. He hesitated, hand still on the door handle, feeling the familiar internal argument rise. He was late, he had meetings, he had learned to keep distance. Still, the image of her sitting there would not let him go. The young woman's name was Rachel Collins, and until that morning, she had believed that endurance alone could save her. She had grown up in a small Ohio town, raised by a mother who worked double shifts at a nursing home and taught her that faith meant standing back up even when your legs trembled. Rachel carried that belief across state lines when she moved to Massachusetts, chasing a degree in a future she thought would be brighter. Instead, life narrowed. Her father passed unexpectedly. Medical bills swallowed her savings. The job she relied on vanished with a sudden layoff. That morning, after being told her apartment lease would not be renewed because of missed payments, she walked until her body could not carry the weight anymore, and she sat down and let herself break. Thomas stepped out of the car, the city noise humming around them, and for the first time in years, he felt unsure of the right words. He had made $1,000 decisions without blinking, but standing there, he sensed how fragile moments could be. He remembered his own beginning, long before the suits and corner offices, when his family had nearly lost their home in Missouri after his mother's illness drained everything they had. Back then, a stranger from church had quietly paid their heating bill, never asking for thanks. That act had changed the trajectory of his life, though he rarely admitted it anymore. Watching Rachel, he wondered if this was one of those moments that defined who you became afterward. Rachel looked up, startled by his presence, embarrassment flooding her grief, but she was too tired to pretend she was fine. Thomas did not ask invasive questions or offer shallow comfort. He simply sat on the curb a short distance away, not crowding her pain, and waited. In that silence, something shifted. The city kept moving, but for a few minutes, it felt like the world had slowed to make room for truth. Rachel found herself breathing a little deeper, the ache in her chest loosening just enough to speak about how everything felt like it had collapsed at once. She did not know why she trusted him, only that his stillness felt safe. What shocked everyone later was not that a wealthy executive noticed a crying woman, but what he chose to do next. Thomas did not hand her cash and disappear. He listened fully, and then he acted with intention. He called his assistant and postponed his meetings without explanation. He drove Rachel to a small cafe nearby, ordered food she barely touched, and made sure she had water. He contacted a friend who ran a nonprofit housing network and stayed until he knew she had a place to sleep that night. More than that, he offered her dignity, treating her not as a problem to be solved, but as a person whose story mattered. Over the following weeks, Thomas did something even rarer. He stayed involved. He connected Rachel with counseling services and helped her navigate job leads, but he never positioned himself as a savior. He encouraged her to rebuild on her own terms, reminding her that accepting help did not mean failure. Rachel, who had spent months feeling invisible, began to feel human again. She found part-time work, then full-time, her confidence returning in cautious steps. Each small victory felt monumental because it was earned through persistence, not pity. For Thomas, the change was quieter but just as profound. The board noticed he seemed different, less sharp-edged, more present. He started leaving the office earlier, volunteering on weekends, questioning decisions that prioritized profit over people. The memory of Rachel on that curb haunted him in a good way, reminding him how close anyone could be to collapse, and how small acts could alter an entire life. He realized success had insulated him from suffering, but also from meaning, and he felt both regret and gratitude for the awakening. Months later, Rachel walked past that same street on her way to work, her stride steadier, her eyes clearer. She still carried scars, but they no longer defined her. She thought about how one stranger's choice had interrupted her lowest moment and redirected her path. She understood now that faith was not just about standing back up alone, but about recognizing grace when it appeared through others. Somewhere across the city, Thomas sat in his office looking out over the skyline, aware that the most important decision he had made that year was not recorded in any annual report. If this story stirred something in you, take a moment before the ending and tell us in the comments what part of it reflected your own life or changed how you see kindness. The truth is, we all pass crying souls on our way to somewhere important, and the road keeps asking us the same quiet question. If you noticed, what would you do? If this story truly touched your heart, please like, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that remind us how powerful compassion can be.